Mount Vernon Nazarene University's Spring Semester Chapel series is taking a biblical look at the topic of human sexuality. MVNU Chaplain Scott Peterson explains the need of this series in chapel.
This semester's series and theme really came out of just the understanding that we live in a sexual world, and that there's more access to it now than there ever has been before, and that the church is not doing a very good job of addressing it and really not speaking into it in appropriate ways. We recognize that all the issues that we're looking at are issues that college students are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and we need to be able to speak to that in a clear and concise and Christian and appropriate way.
We spoke with several MVNU students to find out their thoughts on whether or not they think the topic of sex in chapel is a good idea.
I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed. It's one that's out there and kind of in your face every day, so I think it's something that we shouldn't just ignore and push away.
I think it's a good idea, but I would also say that I think it's an issue that should be brought before college age, maybe in home churches, or especially starting in the home, it should be brought up. But I do think it's a good idea to talk about it now as opposed to waiting till later.
That's one of the reasons why students come here, because they don't want to be around sex and be tempted with that type of spirit. And people that are having those sexual acts, they bring other people down, and they don't realize that.
MVNU's Director of Counseling and Wellness, Eric Browning, says students come to his office quite frequently to discuss issues of human sexuality.
Well, if you take all of the issues of sexuality together, it's definitely not a minor issue. Whether you're talking about, even just someone who's struggling with the issue of lust, but you put in homosexuality, you put in, premarital sex, sexual abuse, even some like bullying, like sexual bullying. Somebody sending unwanted text messages or things like that. I think it's probably far more prevalent than we would realize.
In 2009, Mount Vernon Nazarene University and Kenyon College hooked up to do this survey right here, a study about hooking up on their college campuses. Addison Hill and his team of researchers asked students about their own human sexuality.
Well, let's be honest. Let's clarify real quick. So the questions that we asked regarding that was, have you hooked up? And so we have to understand that we have a defining nature of what hooking up means. Our nature of hooking up, and the definition that we used in the survey, was not sexual intercourse. It was dealing with anything from the desire to do something physically with an individual without any desire to see them further. So that's what we used as a guide. And with that statement, from both schools, we had 1,359 students that participated. Our school individually, we had about 550 students, which takes up about 39% of our population, which is a fantastic return rate. Generally, we were very, very pleased. Out of those, it was actually really perfect, because only 67% were female. So it almost matched our female and male ratio as well. It was around 100 students, which is about 23%. 23% say they have hooked up. So whether that indicates they've had sexual intercourse or oral sex or making out, they've done some sort of physical act with a opposite sex individual. For the sake of just physical pleasure. And so that's kind of disturbing. But then again, when we ask the students how many, we ask them, do you hook up? And then do you think others hook up? We had 66% of them say that others on the campus hook up. And only 20% of them say that they actually hook up themselves. So the campus thinks that there's a pretty promiscuous campus we live on, when in reality it's not.
We spoke with several students whose stories back up the results found in the survey.
Yeah, as an RA, I've had to break up some situations, and not necessarily with sex, but inappropriate behavior. So it's definitely something that is an issue that needs to be addressed.
As a matter of fact, last night, actually, we were in the parking lot getting ready to leave to go out to get something to eat, and the car parked across from us in the parking lot. There was a couple in it, and he was actually on top of her. The windows were fogged, and it was slightly uncomfortable.
Scott Peterson summed up what he hopes students draw from this series.
And so living out your sexuality in appropriate ways with appropriate boundaries is what God intended. And that's a big part of what I hope we're able to find and discover this semester.
The Chapel Department's series on human sexuality will continue through to the end of the school year. Reporting for CougarNet News and the LV Online, I'm James McDowell.